engage with the fans. I think it's a great way to engage with, basketball fans. But I happen to take it a little too far. I don't regret clapping back at anybody or talking to my fans on Twitter. I do regret using my former coach's name and the former organization that I played for. That was childish, that was idiotic, all those type of words. I regret doing that, and I apologize to him for doing that.
Childish and idiotic, all those types of words. That was the apology from Kevin Durant after he disparaged his former coach, Billy Donovan, and his former team, the Thunder, on Twitter. But Robin, that's not the only Durant news from this week. In a profile of Durant for San Francisco Magazine, KD admits that he hit, quote-unquote, rock bottom after his decision to sign with the Warriors led to so much online vitriol. This is what he had to say. For those people that I know and love and trust to turn their back on me after I was fully invested in them, it was just more than I could take. I was upset. So, Robin, we have a lot of Kevin Durant news this week. Do you feel differently about Durant's social media snafu after hearing him explain himself?
Nope. I mean, I don't have a problem with him replying to people on Twitter. I mean,
even in the third person?
Well, that's my issue. I was going to get there.
Yeah.
If I were to have a problem with that, I'd be very hypocritical. Look, I don't have the profile that Kevin Durant has, of course, but that's kind of cool in a sense. Sometimes I think he's a little sensitive in the way he lashes out. But as far as the content of these tweets, there are two things that stand out. Number one, you just read the quote about what he told his agent. That still clearly bothers him, the perception of what he did in going to Golden State. And by tweeting what he did, I think he brought that back to the surface. Any of the work he had done to alleviate it by winning the championship, by winning the Finals MVP, that's now right back at the top of people's minds. And secondly, his explanation did not explain why he was tweeting the way he did, as if he was someone else defending Kevin Durant.
I appreciate the mea culpa, but I agree with you that I don't buy it, because why would he be tweeting in the third person if he doesn't have these phantom accounts that's going to clap back at a lot of his detractors? The one thing that stood out to me over all this Kevin Durant news in the last couple of days is I just can't believe he would be this naive. I mean, this is a man who has been a basketball prodigy since he was young, went to a good school for a year. I mean, playing in the Olympic team, playing in the NBA, and small market, big market, I think doesn't really matter anymore. The opportunities that you have to have these broad horizons, to me, makes it hard for me to believe that you could not foresee getting criticism for leaving OKC to go to Golden State. I feel like you have to be almost willfully ignorant that way, where you live in such a bubble that you can't see that all this love and adoration that's been heaped on you, it's the same edge of a different edge of the same sword. The love and the hate from fans, I have no doubt, is genuine when you're playing for them, and then it can turn into something really nasty when you decide to spurn them to go to the best team of all time. Literally, the best team of all time. So I'm just shocked that he could be that naive.
That's the kind of move you make if you don't care what people think. If you're prioritizing your life, playing with guys, playing the way you want to play, whatever you're prioritizing. But if you care what people think, well, obviously people are going to feel a certain way about that move. Derek Carr got paid this offseason, so it would make sense he would do an ad for a bank. But I doubt many expected him to make his pop star debut, as he did in this commercial for EECU.
Bought a home at a great rate. Not an auto loan, at a great rate. Refinance at a great rate. Through a touchdown at a great rate.
That's that Joey Lawrence swag right there. So do you think Carr has
the 90s are back.
what it takes to be a crossover star?
Yes. The fact that he would wear denim on denim, the Canadian tuxedo, with fringe on it makes me believe, Robin, that he'd basically do anything for a buck. It's not like he needs the money, but, honestly, if Peyton Manning slips even a little bit, I could see Derek Carr going in and getting all of that endorsement money. Because let's be honest, who are his big competition at this point in terms of active quarterbacks? Brady, but Brady's not doing anything like this. He hosted SNL, but he's not doing that. And then you have Rodgers, who's been doing the same discount double check and State, Nationwide, whatever, State Farm for forever. So I think that Derek Carr has a real opportunity here. Now, I'll just say this because I have 2 eyes and 20/20 vision. The real star here is David Carr. Wow. David Carr looks good. I feel like David Carr should come back.
I'll defer to you.
I feel like I'm making it uncomfortable in the studio for how much I want David Carr now to be back on the scene. I'm a happily married woman, by the way. Love you, babe.
Right.
Yeah. Athlete mea culpas. Let's go to that. They seem to be a theme today. Another star who is looking to refresh their reputation is Dwight Howard. Now, Howard is the subject of a profile by our very own Lee Jenkins. Robin, a lot in this profile, but did it make you think a different type of way about Dwight Howard?
Not really. I mean, it's a great piece, as all of Lee's pieces really objectively kind of are, right? But I never hated Dwight Howard. I mean, obviously there was something there to his personality rubbing players the wrong way. When there's that much smoke, there has to be some fire. But I used to consider myself a Dwight Howard defender. I mean, he is a Hall of Famer on the numbers. He was one of the best players in the NBA. In fact, the year Derrick Rose won the MVP, I argued that it should have been LeBron, but if it wasn't LeBron, it should have been Dwight Howard. And Dwight Howard got to the finals. People called him a loser. That's a guy who got to the finals, right? And he played hurt with the Lakers. I think the issue with Dwight Howard right now is more that he's kind of broken a bit in the sense that he went through back injuries, which are tough in general, but particularly tough for someone who's relying on their explosiveness the way he does, and then he didn't have other aspects of his game to fall back on. I also think he got caught up in his own head a little bit, trying to please the likes of Shaq and Charles Barkley by being a traditional post-up big man, when that's not really his game. He doesn't have long arms. He doesn't have that sort of touch. He should have, in my opinion, been much more of like a super version of Tyson Chandler in that screen and roll pace and space game that we see now.
I think it's interesting, and you mentioned him getting in his own head. A great detail out of Lee's story is how at one point when Dwight is in Los Angeles, he was actually calling friends at halftime asking, how do you think I'm doing in the game so far? I mean, that is a level that we have not used to seeing superstars be that insecure in terms of what they're doing on the floor. He said when he tried to be mean, it would take him out of his game. He'd get technical fouls. He was trying to have the mean mug like Kobe. Mamba mentality just didn't suit him. Yet when he would smile and he'd be all laughing, then people would say, well, you don't really care and you're not fully invested. I think the back issues is interesting. I think one other thing that this profile really served to do was, sometimes it's hard to talk about athletes who are devoutly religious because sometimes that can turn people off and it can really turn people on too. The people who are supporters will really get behind that, but I think it alienates some part of our society. And I really thought this was an interesting look into the realities and complexities of what it's like to be devoutly religious, but also have the temptations that come with being a professional athlete. He fell into a lot of the same pitfalls that a lot of athletes do. So to see that human side, I think, was actually quite revealing. One thing in terms of looking forward, 2 things. The fact that Michael Jordan reached out to him and said, I can help you. When we don't really credit MJ for handing olive branches to a lot of guys, but he feels like now playing in Charlotte where MJ owns the team that he can maybe resurrect his career. I don't know if his back is going to be able to hold up. And then the second thing is that he wants to be an organic farmer. Can't really hate on that. I mean, it's a little bit funny. It's a little bit goofy, but he seems very serious about it. He wants to be growing organic squash and vegetables. I say more power to you.
Good luck on the farm, Dwight. We don't know who will perform at the Super Bowl in 2018, but apparently it won't be Jay-Z. According to a report in The Source, Jay turned down the invite. If true, good or bad move for Hov?
Fine move. He doesn't need the Super Bowl, and they made a change a few years ago where the artists for halftime now have to pay the NFL for the privilege of being on the halftime show and the exposure. And what did Jay say? I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. Mm-hmm. I don't think that he needs to be spending his money to try to get exposure at the Super Bowl. He's exposed enough. One other thing. You remember, Beyonce performed at Super Bowl 50. Afterwards, she had people protesting her outside the NFL offices. It got used and twisted as some kind of political statement after she had dropped the Formation album or single, I guess. I think that perhaps that left a bad taste in maybe both of their mouths of how a Super Bowl performance can get politicized, twisted, and turned.
There is zero chance Jay-Z is paying anyone to perform. As you mentioned, the exposure, he doesn't need it because he doesn't even say this, and it's a story that he apparently turned down the invitation. And one other aspect, and this is speculation on my part, but I was at the Meadows concert where he dedicated the story of OJ to Colin Kaepernick. There has been some rumors out there that this could be a part of that, showing solidarity to Colin Kaepernick by turning down the NFL's invite.
I could see that. I could also see that. Let's talk about baseball, shall we? This is you.
Major League Baseball as a whole reached a new milestone. The single-season home run record was broken. 5,694 long balls have been hit this season, and we still have 2 weeks to go. 2017, are you impressed or concerned that the single-season home run record was broken in MLB?
I'm generally a skeptical person, so I do get a little bit concerned. I look to a couple different things for why this record could be broken this year. One is got to be, obvious. If it harkens back to the steroid era, then maybe guys are juicing again in a different way. I get emails from Major League Baseball, I would say average 3 a month, about minor leaguers who are testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs because they are not protected by the union. So I can't be so naive to think that guys aren't still doing it in the majors. Guys are still getting caught in the majors, right? So maybe that is part of it. I also think, though, that maybe guys have just stopped hitting for average and are starting to hit for power. Because I think that even guys who are, you're seeing smaller guys, more compact guys, we were talking before, the maker, Jose Reyes is hitting home runs. Guys who are used to seeing put the ball in play are now swinging for the fences, and so perhaps some of that calculus they're doing in their head is like, I might as well swing and miss. The numbers bear out that this could be better for my team than to be hitting for average.
I don't think it's ever a bad thing when there are more home runs in Major League Baseball. The speculation has really been about the balls more than the players this year and whether the balls are juiced. Now, the testing has gotten more rigorous, and if you look at the guys, they don't look like the juicers that we remember of yesteryear, right? The Aaron Judges and Stantons of the world look like just physically impressive athletes. When back in the day, you could tell with McGuire and Sosa and all those guys walking up to the plate with hat size of equator, right? That was still good for baseball then, and I think even though it hasn't individually captured the imagination, overall, I think it's good for the sport to have emerging young stars. I just mentioned Judge. Very likely, he is going to break the record for single-season home runs at Yankee Stadium. So none of that I can spin negatively because we're really kind of searching to label guys as cheaters or something along those lines. I don't think that conversation's actually out there.
Is it searching, though, or is it starting to just get smart? The fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Especially maybe I'm a little close to it because I've made this my profession, but after you see so many people testing positive, or you never thought were going to, maybe you have to stop being so shocked anymore. You mentioned the body types. Well, D. Gordon from the Marlins, I would have never thought had the body type of a steroid user, and he gets popped. So, I always believe, and this has become cliche, that the cheaters are always going to be ahead of the testers. It also doesn't really make a lot of sense like it did during the steroid era. It doesn't really make sense to really come down so hard on the cheaters. It was the players themselves who wanted the drugs out of the game.
Yeah, and the other thing about it is the anger and the assault on the records has already happened. That's over with. So I don't know if people care the same way they did when Maris's mark fell. That may be done with.
I don't know. There was a little bit of outrage when Aaron Judge said that, or was it Stanton? Said the real home run record.
Yeah. Well, I was one saying that the record is Bonds. You don't get to arbitrarily pick records. You might not like that he has the record, but it is the record.
I knew that'd set you up.
Yeah. We've got a feud between former teammates as former Washington wide receiver Santana Moss said this about RG3 being happy with Mike Shanahan leaving the team in a radio interview with 106.7 The Fan.
Come 2013, all of a sudden, it's a whole big dilemma in the locker room, in the meeting rooms, and just in our building that, the man, Mike Shanahan, and RG's not seeing eye to eye. Whole thing went about. We hear that Mike Shanahan's not coming back the next year. Then we hear, the quarterback like, hey, like basically saying that, hey, you got me out of here not playing last year, the last few games. Then that's what happened. You get fired.
Taking credit for.
You can't do that. One thing I just shared with you, God don't like ugly. So the little credit that he did take for saying that, hey, they didn't like what I was doing, or they benched me and now allow me to play. That's what happens.
Griffin responded on Twitter calling it a lie and act of betrayal. Does a story like this, Maggie, make it even more difficult for RG3 to get back in the league?
No, I don't think so. I think what's making it so hard for RG3 to get back into the league is the fact that he appears to be fragile. I mean, his laundry list of injuries, some would say, should be blamed on Mike Shanahan and the organization, and even, the he said, she said between Mike Shanahan and Dr. James Andrews on whether or not they did say if RG3 should get back into a game after not only a knee injury, as we all famously remember as Washington was trying to make their playoff run in RG3's rookie year, but also a preseason concussion. I mean, these things are emotional. These things really impact a player, but you have the knee. He also had an ACL in college. Remember that. He dislocated an ankle in 2014, preseason in 2015. He gets the concussion. Honestly, I mean, RG3 didn't make a lot of noise when he was at the Browns. Didn't seem to be a locker room distraction there. And he went to the Browns and had a shoulder injury in week 1. So I don't think that it's about RG3, the person. I really think it's about RG3, the athlete, and the fact that he can't stay on the field.
Yeah, I don't think his Q rating is very high, but I agree with you. I mean, people seem to forget how great this guy was as a rookie, but Occam's razor says the explanation that requires the fewest assumptions is generally the correct one. And to me, the reason RG3 was never the same is probably what he was referencing, Santana Moss was referencing in that radio interview. Mike Shanahan on the sideline, RG3 taking his leg. We all saw it. You're almost in pain watching it and trying to get to the sideline.
One other thing is I was doing a little bit of research here. I didn't also realize that Santana Moss and Mike Shanahan had spoken about moving Moss to the slot, which he thought might add another 2 or 3 years onto his career, and then Shanahan got fired. So I think there's just a lot of bad blood all around. Meanwhile, the NBA offseason, we know it dominated the news this summer, highlighted by Kyrie Irving requesting a trade out of Cleveland. So it got us thinking. With some of the subpar play in the NFL, why don't NFL superstars ask for trades like their NBA counterparts? So we thought of a few potential trades that could shake up the league. Robin, I'm really excited about what we're about to do. Okay, first off, let's start here. It's hard to trade injured players, but we think the Jags would jump at the opportunity to jump ship on the SS Blake Bortles, which
Probably.
might be counting. Okay, let's take out a list. What would you do this trade? Jacksonville would be trading for Andrew Luck, right? For the 2018 first-round pick and Tyler Patman, because they need some cornerback help.
Would I do it if I'm the Colts? No, I would not do that. Would I do it as fan of the league in general? Yes, because I think it upgrades a team that maybe if you put Andrew Luck on the Jaguars could then be legitimate. And I'm not so sure there's anything the Colts can do as currently constituted to become legitimate.
Oh my gosh, if I'm the Jags, I'm taking whatever high-speed jet that Shad Khan may possibly have, and I'm trying to get to Indianapolis, even though Luck is injured and they think his shoulder is something along the lines of Drew Brees. I mean, yes, that's going to take a long time to recover, but then on the other side, you maybe have Drew Brees, and at worst, you have Andrew Luck as himself. So I think that would just be an awesome one. All right, let's go wide receivers.
Next up, A.J. Green to the Seahawks for Richard Sherman and a 2018 fourth-round pick. Obviously, in this scenario, the Seahawks would part with an iconic player, but would fill the need at elite receiver. No-brainer move for Seattle?
I like this. We already know that Richard Sherman has been talked about in trade rumors, which is kind of weird because we don't really hear a lot of trade rumors in the NFL, but we know that the team was looking into it. And A.J. Green, I mean, how could you not feel for this guy? How frustrating for him to be on a team. I mean, they just fired the offensive coordinator, so maybe the offense will open up, but Andy Dalton looks tentative. He just does not look like, despite the fact that he is targeting Green, he's not doing it at the most opportune times when you really need him, like, third down conversions, touchdowns, things like that. I think that A.J. Green with Russell Wilson would be an absolute no-brainer. We know the Seahawks need a threat. How about this
next
one? We're going to call this one a Chip Kelly reversal. We know that LaShawn McCoy never wanted to leave Philly for Buffalo when he was traded for Kiko Alonso. So now Shady would be back in Philly for rookie Donnell Pumphrey and a second-round pick. Who says no?
Whew. You know what? I don't know if anybody says no. This trade might actually work considering what the Bills have been doing.
Yes.
You know, on paper, it looks lopsided, but we've seen the Bills sort of try to rebuild on the fly by acquiring draft picks. And for a running back of McCoy's age, regardless of how good he is, second-round pick on its own is pretty solid return. So I think this might be a realistic kind of trade.
I love this one. Bills stockpiling picks. They're obviously moving in a new direction with a new regime and head coach. You get Shady goes back to Philadelphia. That's a great story. And I think that the Eagles then turn into win now mode, which I know they're in right now, but Carson Wentz in his second year, I think this gives him a phenomenal option. And I think that, you know, look how the Giants are doing. You're looking at Washington is doing. You're maybe looking at Dallas taking a step back. Philadelphia, if they had Shady McCoy, might emerge as the no-brainer winner of that division.
Well, we're trading Shady all over the NFC East. How about to the Giants for Shane Vereen, Sterling Shepard, and a 2018 second-round pick? We know the Giants need a running game, but does it matter without an offensive line? Would you give up Shepard to get Shady?
This is just how much I really respect Shady McCoy that I probably, this is so hard. I probably would, just because I think I might be able to get another wide receiver in the draft. And you're just looking at the Giants right now. They are dead last in the NFL in rushing attempts. And that's keeping in mind that two teams in this league have only played one game, not two. They're still dead last. So I think they really obviously need a rushing game. You mentioned the offensive line, though, is very Civ-like. Not sure that Shady can be Shady behind that terrible line. But I think as much as I really like Sterling Shepard, great fit, from all accounts, great guy, and with Brandon Marshall keeps dropping balls, then you need Sterling Shepard. And a lot of times he's seemed like the only offense for the Giants in 2 games. But I think, honestly, you probably go Shady just because your run game is just atrocious.
Well, he would certainly be a massive upgrade at that position. All right, we just talked a lot of football. Well, I talked to a very great running back, LaDainian Tomlinson, and we talked about anything but football. We all know LaDainian Tomlinson, but I don't know if we know LaDainian Tomlinson.
Uh-oh.
We're going to do something called Anything But Football. Are you ready for that? I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. None of them have anything to do with football. Are you ready?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, favorite animal?
Yeah, I like pit bulls.
All right, so
I'm
you
from
like
Texas.
I like pit bulls too. My parents have a couple pit bulls. I have a Morkie. It's half Yorkie, half Maltese. It's really more like a hamster.
Yeah, my wife has a Chihuahua. We used to have a Yorkie.
Oh, okay. There you go. Little difference between Yorkies and pit bulls.
That's true.
Anyway, favorite superhero?
Superman. My son asked me that question as well. You know, he's Batman, Superman, Dad, Captain America. You know, and I'm a Superman guy. He thinks I should be more Incredible Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I like the fact that Superman can really, you know, he saves the day most of the time, right? He can fly around, he gets to places really.
He's got a lot of powers,
He has
really.
a lot of power.
Sometimes it's a little like weird how he can't hear someone in trouble when he can be up in space and hear someone, but that's besides the point. Anyway, how many rounds do you think you would last with Floyd Mayweather?
That's a good question. Probably, you know, I'll try to last, you know, at least half the fight, but I'll hold him. You know, I'll just,
Yeah.
you know, hold him and kind of use my quicks a little bit. You know, I was known for being a quick guy on the football field, good juke moves. I think I can do that. And maybe, you know, maybe I'll take him down a couple of times. They'll make us go back to our corners, you know, and so, yeah, maybe half the fight.
Location of your first kiss?
Wow. That would be back in Waco, Texas, at school, at elementary school.
Elementary school. Uh-oh.
Fifth grade.
Yeah, okay. Upper elementary school.
Exactly.
Last time you cried?
Hall of Fame.
Last TV show you binge watched?
Actually, Snowfall. It was on FX.
Best cartoon character?
Tom and Jerry.
they go together.
Watching Tom and Jerry,
yeah.
man, like I can't get over. I put my kids on Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
They watch Tom and Jerry now.
That's like Montana and Rice. You
Yeah.
put them together. All right.
Exactly.
Best rapper?
I'm more of a T.I. guy, you know, a Scarface back in Houston. But
So you lean Southern rap then. Outkast? What about Outkast?
Outkast, yeah, absolutely. Outkast, UGK. You know, I'm Southern, so I always go with the Southern rappers. But I mean, right now, you know, I would say 2 Chainz.
Food chains. All right. The one thing you couldn't eat while playing football that you're so happy you can eat now?
I mean, I did, you know, there were times where on my off day, I ate whatever I wanted to eat. Back when I played, I had to kind of take, you know, eat one cheeseburger every 2 weeks or eat pizza every 2 weeks or whatever. But now, oh, it's every week.
All right. The one thing you had to do while playing that you're so happy you don't have to do right now?
Go to training camp. I mean, training camp for a month of, you know, 2 a day practicing. You know, it's hot and you know, it was just awful. It was just awful.
What is a horned frog?
A horned frog is actually a frog that spits out blood through its eyes, and it has little horns on top of it. So it's a mean frog, if
Wow.
you believe it or not.
Yeah, that's much more intimidating than a Yorkie.
Yeah,
to
that's
circle
true.
back.
That's true.
Now, you're building awareness for FedEx's air and ground NFL program this season. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so fans can actually vote for their favorite player, the best performances between quarterbacks and running backs, and they can actually do that through Twitter, hashtag air and ground, or they can go to NFL.com/FedEx, and they can do that every single week. And what FedEx would do is they would donate $2,000 for each player, which totals $4,000 each week, and they support the USO programs for our military, making that transition back to civilian life. But we need the fans to go out and vote. It's very important.
Awesome thing they're doing, and thank you so much for joining us, the great LaDainian
Thank
Tomlinson.
you so much, man.
November 4th at Barclays Center, or Showtime. Deontay Wilder will defend his WBC heavyweight title against Luis Ortiz of Cuba. We're excited to talk to the bronze bomber himself, the pride of Alabama. Deontay Wilder is here. Before we can talk about your next fight, though, let's wrap up some things from the boxing world. We just came off the Triple G Alvarez fight. Ends in a draw. How'd you see it?
Oh my God! That was first off, that was an amazing fight. You know, it couldn't get no better than that. It was non-packed action from the first to the beginning of the round. I mean, to the end of the round, and it was phenomenal just to see those guys just put it all on the line. You know, blood, sweat, and tears. That's what boxing is about right there. But you know, I had Canelo. You know, on
Really?
that one. Yeah, I think he threw the more cleaner punches, in my opinion. More power punches, more cleaner land, more. You know, Triple G threw more punches, but I think Canelo was a little bit cleaner. But it's a draw, and it shocked a lot of people, even myself, just by looking at this fight. Like, how in the world could this be a draw? You know, but I think it make great TV for the next fight around for sure.
You know, I could definitely see Canelo winning, but Adelaide Bird had on her scorecard 118, 110. Obviously, the score, my math in my head off there. What did you make of that?
That's a wide margin right there. That's for a fight to be so close encounter. You know, like they didn't even get a breath between each other. It was like.
How would you like to see something like that handled when a judge scores it in such a way that's jarring to so many people?
One more round. Why not? I mean, back in the day, they used to go 15. You know, I know regulation requires 12 rounds, but when it's dealing with a situation like this, I think one more round that they should add in it. Why not? One more round. You know?
There's overtime in every sport. Why not boxing, even though it is so brutal of a sport? Is it possible for a judge like Bird, who's now going to have to take kind of a timeout from judging boxing matches, but is there something the fighters themselves can do to put pressure on some of these state athletic commissions to say, no, don't just take a break, never be allowed to judge a fight again?
Yeah, most definitely. I wouldn't go so harsh as not having a fight again. But start over from the basics, you know, go back into training, you know, get the basics down, and then have them to move themselves back up, you know. So I wouldn't put it so harsh on them because sometimes refereeing, that's their lifestyle, you know, and it'd be harsh, I would think, to take away their lifestyle.
Do you think controversial scores and outcomes hurt the sport?
Most definitely, hands down, you know, because, like I said, again, a magnificent fight that we've seen, you know, nobody wants to see a draw in a fight like that. We want to see a winner. You know, people want to celebrate. The ones that was going for Canelo wants to celebrate at the end of the day. The ones that was going for Triple G wants to celebrate at the end of the day. So when it's a draw, it's like we both celebrate because we didn't win, No, did we lose? But it's not like the turn up is not going to be real when they consider somebody actually won, you know? So
I think in a lot of ways, people are just looking for that big prize fight anywhere they can find it to try to make the biggest buck they can and then golden parachute out of the sport. We just saw it with Mayweather-McGregor. I mean, is it more important now as a fighter to just have a spectacle, get a big payday, than become the champion of your division?
I think with that, I think it's just all about what's a fighter, what are you trying to do at the end of the day? You know, you have some fighters like that. They in it just for the money, they in it for the fame, and you know, and to get what they, you know, they like the women and stuff that comes with the sport, you know. Some like that, but you know, there's a lot of them like me that most important to me is building my legacy, leaving behind something for my children. They can say, my father did this, my father did that. He accomplished this. He was the undisputed, undefeated, you know, heavyweight champion of the world. That's more than anything, because money, it comes and goes. The faster it come in your hand, the faster it can go out of your hand. But your legacy, that's something that will never go away forever, ever, you know. And for that being said, you know, I don't have nothing, no ill will towards anybody that wants to do it for the money, because you have to feed your family. But for me, it's more serious than just money.
So if Brock Lesnar is like Deontay Wilder, I want you in a boxing ring.
Well, it's a difference than being, it's a difference than being crazy now. I mean, if the price is right, of course, you know, hey, why not, you know?
So who wins that fight, you or Brock?
I mean, I win, of course, you know. I'll go to the octagon with him on that one.
Is that right? No, you wouldn't do that. You would not.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't I?
You would go to the
Why
octagon?
wouldn't I? Why wouldn't you think I wouldn't?
I'm more just in shock because you're just such a talented boxer.
Well, you know, and I'm also a talented fighter as well, too, when it comes to the UFC as well, too. I have many friends that do it as well, and, you know.
Should we send this tape to Dana White?
Yeah.
Well, send it.
Are you going to knock him out or make him tap out?
We going both.
Both at the same time.
There you go.
Oh, I guess you have to make him tap out first, and then you have to knock him out for that to make sense, right?
Before he's unconscious. Yeah. Amazing. Well, Deontay, first things first, November 4th, you and Luis Ortiz, Barclays Center. You can watch it on Showtime. We're excited to have you here. Thanks for stopping by, champ.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Okay, Deontay Wilder in the octagon. We're going to have to wait to see that one. Meanwhile, we'll be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern for a brand new episode of SI Now. Until then, stick with SI.com for all the latest news and headlines. Follow us on Twitter, where we'll be posting clips from today's show. Have a good Wednesday. See you tomorrow.
I'll go on record. I will not fight Deontay Wilder.
You'd be dead.